Blender for Noobs.
Hello and welcome back to the Secrets of Blender modeling the Berkey spacecraft. In this part 9 of our tutorial, we are going to start placing the details that we created in our asset library along the spacecraft. Now for me, I don't know about you, but this is a pretty exciting time of the tutorial because what we're going to be doing is actually be creating a lot of these details, and really I think our spacecraft is going to really start to come alive here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, make sure that you did save your file as version 9. No need to take a progressional picture because we haven't really changed anything really. We've just added these details to our library. So while we're here in the layer where we have our details, just going to box select all these details here, and I just want to move them up so they'll be out of the way. And then come down here and shift select our model. And you can really place these anywhere you want to place them so they'll be handy. I think what I'm going to do is just put them out to the side here, just far enough away from the model so I won't confuse them from what I'm creating here. Okay, so we can take a look at our image here, and really we're just gathering inspiration from this image. We don't want to try to duplicate anything. If we're duplicating anything, it's really roughly anyway, because as a 3D artist, we're really doing an artist rendition of the art that we're working off of. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Control Up Arrow full screen so we can get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is start working on the details that are really, if we do go to 7 top view, really in this kind of back section of the craft. So I'm just going to start to Shift D duplicate, and I don't want to move any of these, I just want to work from them, so I'm going to be duplicating each one that I grab and trying to get them into place. And you'll notice also as you work along, you can duplicate these and resize them and actually reuse your assets as different assets, as long as you can get away with, where they don't look like they're complete duplicates of what you've worked with, if that makes any sense. So also for this section, I will probably end up speeding up a lot of what I'm doing here, because really it's up to you how you place these. Definitely don't have to do it exactly or even close to exactly what I'm doing. Just do it in a way that makes sense for you. One thing I will add though, when you're adding these, keep in mind that you want it to be no bigger than what we have here. In fact, a lot of these, like I started out with this mast, which is very small, we really want everything relatively as small as this mast. So as you're moving these over, you may just want to resize them so that they fit the relative scale of the spaceship, so that it's really making your spaceship look quite a bit larger than what it is. Okay, so there's an example of what we're trying to accomplish here. I think I need really some more solid structures in here to add the details to, and I'll be doing that as I move along to the different areas. But before we move along any further, one thing that I noticed that I need to do is, you'll notice when you select some of these, the origin point is way off. So we just need to do a T tools menu, origin to geometry. And that way when you're moving it around, it's a lot easier to get to. Most of them are okay, but some of them are off, so just want to make sure that we set that. Okay, and another thing that we can do is, as we move on and working with our other sections, we can get these closer to the relative space that we're working in, so we don't have to move them around so much. So let's see which section that we can do next. I think the next section that I'm going to do is the one over on this side, sort of like in this area, the back area. So in order to speed things up, I'm just going to box select all these, go ahead and duplicate them and get them closer to the area that I'm going to be working in, which is going to be right about here. So I'll move them in a little bit and just move them up a little bit like that. That way I can just grab them and bring them straight down and just move them, not have to move them so much as I did before. So I'm going to do this section as well, and then I'm going to leave you to complete the other sections on your own. Since really this section is kind of at your artistic discretion on how you want to place these, we've already modeled the details that we need. We just need to place them into the area that we have them. We will be creating a little bit more geometry just to make sure these things are hooked together nicely, but other than that, we're just doing placement here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick. Go into our full screen view. And I think that for this section, actually, I'm going to create kind of a platform coming off the ship, just because it seems to need something here in order to hang all this stuff onto. So I'm just going to choose E and extrude this outward. Extrude this area, make some sort of like a platform area. And maybe even use this section to build sort of the structure of what these parts are going to go on. So in other words, I'm just going to do a Control R and move this along here, go back to faces, and extrude this upward. Don't want to make these really too big. But just something that's going to kind of hold these assets in place. Okay, so now we can start to place some of these. And I think probably just to make it easier on myself here, I'm going to, notice this is at an angle, so I'm just going to straighten it out a little bit. Maybe artistically it'd be fine to have this at an angle, but in order to get the model done here for you, we'll make sure that we don't take forever doing this. Okay, so pretty close to level there, hopefully. And now we can move some of these into place. Okay, some more work that probably should be done here, but before I end this section, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some of this front section as well. So one thing I want to do is take this thing here and duplicate it, and I'm just going to move it over here, because if we look at the original image, we have this thing, whatever it may be, kind of in the front here, along with some structure going up to the top. So I just want to kind of recreate that, sort of. So let me rotate that a little bit more, bring it out. And is there anything in our assets that we can use to kind of put there? Maybe this. Duplicate that over here, bring it in here. Put it kind of behind there. And before I do any more to that, remember we're going to put some of these details on the inside if we want to. So feel free to grab anything that might look like it might fit in there. And I'll just do one as an example here. Won't take up your time moving this stuff around. Wow. Try to get this thing into place. But anyway, you can see how they can be used to get some more fine detail in this area, which it really needs pretty bad. Okay, and for this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to build off of what I have here. And we got this part here that's kind of sticking out, which I don't want it to stick through this, whatever it is. So use our GG to move that back. Actually, we could just delete those vertices, it'd be fine. Same with these. And may even want to give this thing a platform, not sure. But I'll probably do a little bit more work here on this thing. Alright, I'm going to do a save, and I'm going to create another camera just so we can get a better angle of this. So Shift A, create a camera, go to our top view, and let's bring it over here somewhere. And Control 0 so we can see what the camera's seeing. Try to move it into place. Okay, so that might be a pretty good angle right there. Interestingly enough, we have these, our pieces setting out here in our final image. I mean, we could create kind of a little random space junk out there as well, which might add to the image, might subtract from the image. We have to wait and see. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shift select our lighting and our solar panels, wherever they may be. Okay, I'm just not able to see them. Alright, so let's go ahead and do an F12 render. Okay, so there's our render so far. You can kind of see with this render how if we get the lighting right in here, this area in here is going to look really nice and dark and mysterious, and we won't know exactly what's going on in there, but there's something going on in there. You can also see that from when I started here, I was so worried about getting the minute details and making them small enough that this actually looks way too small, and this looks closer to what we needed. This could be a little bit smaller, but it's closer to what we need. So probably what I'll do on what I created here is take all of these pieces here and just scale them up a little bit and replace them right there. Shouldn't be a problem. But I'm going to go ahead and work on the other details along the craft. Basically just doing the same thing as we did here, just grabbing our pieces and fitting them in place any way we think that it might look interesting. So feel free to do the same. I mean, use your imagination and create it the way that you think that it should be created, and so it'll look interesting. So I think it's looking pretty nice so far. Just thinking ahead, thinking about how this is going to look in the final image with the texturing and the compositing and everything. I think it's going to turn out really nice. But really, as you're working along in Blender, I mean, you have to wear a number of hats. If you're just doing modeling and not texturing, then of course you can concentrate only on the modeling. But when you're thinking about modeling and then doing the materials and the texturing and then doing the lighting and compositing, all of that, as we're going to cover in this tutorial, really you have to kind of set those things aside. It's very exciting for me to think about getting finished with a final texture and how this thing's going to look. But as we're doing this part, I'm really just kind of wearing my modeling hat and trying to concentrate on this. And then as we move through the different sections, we'll change hats and we'll start to get those different aspects of the model complete and hopefully be very pleased with the final product. So in the next part, part 10, what we're going to be looking at is, if we go back to our reference image, we're going to have all these details placed, and obviously you're going to have them placed differently than what I have, and that's completely fine. It's really up to the imagination. But in part 10, we're going to start working on this area here, which is going to be the bridge, or what I consider to be the bridge of the craft, or the control center. So I'll see you in part 10.